Let's construct a grouped frequency distribution table for this set of data. I have my set of data, and I want to construct a grouped frequency distribution table because the range, when I computed the range, it was very big. So that's why I'm constructing a grouped frequency distribution table, although it looks like my data is discrete. So in this case, I found the minimum using the min function. So the minimum was 4,360. I found the maximum the same way. I found the range, which is the maximum minus the minimum, and then I found the class width by dividing the range by the number of the classes, which is, I need 10 classes. That's what's written in the question, so I'm going to stick to the question. Now that I find this class width, which is 176, I'm going to round it up to the nearest 100, because that's just a nice number to have a number that is actually a multiple of 10. So I'm going to stick to 200 as a class width in this case. The next step, which is very important, is to find the lower class limit of the first class. This is my first class. I put the labels here. So this is the first class, and I want to find the lower class limit of the first class. The lower class limit of the first class has to be either the minimum or a number that is slightly less than the minimum. The first number that is smaller than the minimum, and it has also to be the multiple of the class width. So let me test some numbers here. I have the minimum to test, so I'm going to test it. 4,360 divided by 200. The answer is 21.8. So I have fractions here, or I have decimals here. That means that 4,360 is not a multiple of 200. So I'm going to choose another number that is slightly less than the minimum. I'm going to choose 4,260. Let's see if it's a multiple of 200. Sorry. And it looks like it's not. So I need a smaller number than that. I'm going to remove the 60. I'm going to say 4,200 divided by 200. It is 21, so I don't have decimals here. That means 4,200 is a multiple of 200, which is my class width. So I'm going to begin with that number. And then you're going to find all of the lower class limits first, and then we find the upper class limits. So if you add the class limit so I'm going to click here, plus the class width, you're going to get the lower class limit of the second class. So I'm going to drag this formula down. I essentially need 10, but I dragged it more than 10, so it's not a big deal as long as I know what I'm doing. So now we're going to find the upper class limit of the first class. To find the upper class limit of the first class, that is basically the lower class limit of the second class minus 1 unit. In this case, 1 unit is going to be the number 10. Because if I subtract just 1, that's too small of a number to subtract. So that's why we're going to subtract 10 in this case. I would recommend that if you're working with 3-digit numbers or less, that you subtract 1. If you're working with a 4-digit number or bigger, you're going to subtract 10. If your numbers contain decimals, if you have 1 decimal place in your numbers, then you're going to subtract 0.1. If you have 2 decimals, you're going to subtract 0.01, and etc. So you're going to keep trying. Ultimately, there is no wrong answer here. It depends on how you construct it yourself, but there is a good answer and there is a bad answer, of course. And the instructions that we offer in the questions usually produce a good answer. So stick to those instructions. I'm going to populate to find the upper class limit of all of the classes. Now that I have the upper class limits, I can compute the frequency for each class. But before I do that, I usually try to test my class limit to make sure that it is working before I can proceed and then be shocked that it didn't work for my specific question. So I'm going to test the first class and see if that works. If it works, I'm going to proceed. So it's equal to bracket 4,200, comma 4,390. Close bracket, and then go, and then I'm going to submit it. So it's right. So I'm going to proceed with the process. So now I want to find the frequencies. To find the frequency, you can use the function count ifs. So count ifs because we have two categories, upper class limit and lower class limit. It's asking about the criteria range, which is our data. Don't forget to lock that range by clicking F and F4 or Command T if you're on a Mac. And then we put the criteria. We want to count all of the numbers that are greater than or equal to 4,200. So I'm going to put the condition between quotation mark, greater than or equal to, close the quotation, and then Shift 7 to put the AND symbol. And then I'm going to click on the lower class limit, comma. Now the function is asking about the criteria range, which is my data again, and I'm going to lock it by clicking F and F4 because I have a PC, Command T for Mac, comma, and then between two quotation marks you're going to put the other condition. I want to count all of the numbers less than or equal to 4,390 or the upper class limit of the first class. So this is greater than, sorry, this is less than or equal to, close the quotation mark, and then Shift 7, and then click on the upper class limit, and then close and enter. I have the frequency now. I can just double click to populate. You notice automatically that these are irrelevant because the frequencies are 0. So you know that these are irrelevant and you can ignore them totally. So this is one method. In a different video, I showed you another method using the data analysis tool, which is, I find it probably easier to remember and easier to work with, but here is a solution for those who can't work with the data analysis tool for some reason. I hope this video clarified how to create a group frequency distribution table if you have 4-digit numbers in your data.